and welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode number 97, and this is the current economic collapse news brief for Saturday. And I just want to welcome all the new listeners, and there's just a couple things I just want to say before I get started. I'm putting up a page. There's a new tab on top on the x22report.com site called Resources, and I'm creating a document page to capture all the documents that I've been talking about, and then I'll put explanations by them. I put it up there right now. I'm in the process of putting what each document is, and I'll continually add the documents there. And this way, when I refer to something that says, if I refer to the FDIC Bank of England document, you can go see it. I'm also going to put the some of the bank's terms of service, and I'll indicate what sections I'm talking about so you can see the terms of service where they talk about they're not responsible or liable, or the officers or representatives are not liable, in case of cyber attacks, riots, war, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to continually add to that page. And I also added new things to the timeline, just so we can get a overall story of what's going on and where we are headed. And that's pretty much it. And then also, if those people who are new who don't know about it, if you click on the people, that is the form. It doesn't cost anything to join. You can create a handle or another name. You don't have to use your real name there, and nothing is ever given out, and we just talk about what is going on. People from all over talk about different areas. And listen, if you're from another country and you see things differently and you don't see your country listed down below, or you do see your country listed below and you want to add something that we don't know about, or you see something from a different view, because here in America, if you're from Australia, from Japan, Syria, and you're seeing things that don't correspond to what I'm saying, and you're seeing it from the point of view of your country, and we're not seeing that news, go on there and let everybody know, because this is basically worldwide. And everyone needs to talk about what's going on. And it's great to hear from people from different countries and to understand that there are different things that are happening. So if you don't see your country, just let me know. I'll add it very quickly. I do things pretty much almost the same day. And you can go ahead and post right after that. And you do have to be a member, I'm sorry, to post anything on the site, the people. So let's get started with the current economic collapse news. So we're going to go back to Cyprus now, and we see Cyprus, they're doing so well. The bail-ins worked. The recovery is going so well. And basically Fitch and S&P downgraded Cyprus from CCC to a restricted default. So we can tell this was not for a recovery. Basically, it was to steal the money from the people, to take their wealth. And right now, Cyprus is trying to do this bomb swap, and basically they're in really deep trouble. And because all of this is not meant to make things better, it is to steal the people of their wealth, to steal the country of their wealth, to get all of their natural resources. And basically this is what the central bankers do. They rob from the people. They give them worthless papers. And basically, let's see, a defaulting bank gives you bank stock. Why would you want bank stock if the bank is defaulting? It makes no sense. So they're going to take your dollars and replace it with a piece of paper that is absolutely worthless, which you can't touch, which is frozen. And why would you want this? And again, this refers back to the FDIC Bank of England document, where it lays out that all depositors are now creditors. And actually in the banks like Bank of America, Citibank, and if you look at other banks, I'm sure it's all the same. all depositors are now considered creditors. So that has changed. Let's move on here. So there was an article, I think this was an Investment Watch blog. Yes, 2014 is an absolute total disaster just waiting to ignite. In a doomsday poll, 87% risk of stock crash by year end. We analyzed 10 major crash warnings since early this year. And basically it goes on to say, number one, bubble with no name yet triggers biggest crash in 30 years. Jukes warns that we are now trapped in the fourth mega bubble fueled by the Federal Reserve in the last 30 years. Since the rise of conservative economics, he calls this one bubble with no name yet. Okay, we invite you to send in your nomination to name this new bubble, but whatever you call it, do it fast. It's close to popping, like the Asian.com and credit crashes in the last 30 years. 2. Mark Farber, doomsday warning on Bernanke's disastrous QE scheme. Farber suggested that QE would basically be part of everyday life for the rest of our lives, adding that back in 2010, in the early days of Bernanke's disastrous experiment, Farber warned that Feds headed for QE 99. Number 3, economy is already crashing. GDP will get even worse in 2014 and 2016. The dramatic downgrade of U.S. economic growth in the first quarter revealed the economy's lingering weakness, exposed the folly of Washington's austerity obsession, and slapped the Federal Reserve newfound optimism right in the face. And with politics deteriorating, it will get worse. 4. Precious metals going dark. Economic cycles point downward. That's the headline flashing red warnings. After reviewing 20 cycles tracked by 20 other experts, Goldseek.com concluded there are many cycles that suggest a stock market correction or crash is near. Preparation is important. You still have a little time remaining before the window closes. Number 5, Gross warns Ponzi scheme tipping point, credit supernova. Gross, 4 months ago, he warned the Fed is blowing a credit supernova, a new monetary bubble that would implode Bernanke's arrogant, risky experiment, putting America's future at great risk by bankrolling a Wall Street Ponzi scheme and blowing a huge financial bubble. 6, cycles happen. We're now in the 5th year of a typical 4-year bull rally. Number 7, political wars guarantee intense volatility through 2016 elections. The war between Congress with its abysmal 10% approval rating and the president. The war between the Dems, GOP, and the Tea Party is going to get even worse, upsetting markets and the economy even more. Number 8, unemployment futures weak as pensions drains states, municipalities. Yes, pensions for retirees at state and municipal levels are preventing recovery. Number 9, investors' brains are so distracted in denial they won't get out in time. A bubble with no name yet is still a bubble, but Americans are too distracted, too numb, too in denial to hear the warnings. Reminds me of a headline back on March 20th, 2000. Next crash, sorry, you'll never hear it coming. Let's see. Number 10. Economics is killing the economy, but like coke addicts, we won't stop. All right, let's move on here. Now, Kerry is meeting with the Middle East, and they're saying the meeting is positive. And this article goes on to say that Kerry and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met in Jerusalem on Friday afternoon, their second meeting in 24 hours. The contents of the meeting were not disclosed, but an American official was quoted by Israel Radio as having said that the meeting was detailed and meaningful. The two agreed to meet for a third time on Saturday night. Basically, and I've said this before, the U.S. government is not seeking peace. They do not want peace. How can they possibly want peace if they are the ones creating all this? The central bankers, the U.S. government, are paying mercenaries to create revolutions in these countries. They are here to take them over, to put everyone back on the petrodollar and to create central banks in these countries. So why in the world would they ever want peace? No, basically what Netanyahu and Kerry are discussing is their next attack on these countries and their next move. It's like a chess game. What do we do now? And that's what they're really discussing. They're not, basically, this whole thing is for the American people who are sleeping. Oh, look, we're trying to create peace. We're working the best we possibly can. We're doing everything we can to have a peaceful resolution. And all the Americans that are sleeping and around the world, everyone's going, oh my God, look, we're trying to create. No, they're not doing any of that because they can't create peace because they're the ones who are causing this war and the uprising in the land. Okay, let's move on here. Now, we know war is coming, and so does Iran, Russia, China, and that's why Iran and Russia to hold joint Navy drills in the Caspian Sea. So let's just get this whole thing and put it into perspective. The U.S. government sends weapons to Jordan because they say it's a drill they're having. Then they decide to leave the F-16 and the weapons in Jordan. Very interesting. The U.S. government now is sending troops to Libya, Lebanon, and Egypt, as a security advisory role, and they're not going to get involved. They're just going to let these countries, help them with their revolution that's going on right now. And the people that are upset, but we're not, right now, just like the drill, we're just going and sending troops as advisors. This is how they start. They always say we're sending them in as advisors, and all of a sudden they're not advisors anymore because they were fired on, and now we have to send new troops in. Interesting, okay. The U.S. government, Japan, and other countries are holding drills off the coast of California that mimic taking over an island of China. Very interesting. Now, what are the Russians doing? The Russians are placing missiles in Armenia pointed towards Syria. The Russians are modernizing the base in Armenia. The U.S. base in Kyrgyzstan is not being renewed in 2014 because Kyrgyzstan is in line with Russia. And now Iran and Russia are holding their own joint Navy drills in the Caspian Sea. So what is going on here? They are prepping for war. And John Kerry is in Israel under the disguise of peace going, holy crap, they're getting ready. What are we going to do? This whole thing is prepping for World War III. Okay, let's move on here. Now, yesterday I mentioned that the Department of Defense was blocking The Guardian, and now it says that the Department of Defense blocks millions of computers from viewing all alternative news, all articles that have to do with the NSA leak. And this basically is censorship, and this is controlling what people see. And this goes on. The Department of Defense is blocking online access to news reports about classified National Security Agency documents made public by Edward Snowden. The blackout affects all of the department's computers and is part of a department-wide directive. Any website that runs information that the Department of Defense still considers classified is affected. If that particular website runs an article that our filters determine has classified information, the particular content of that website will remain inaccessible. And we can see that they are controlling the use of information, and which is funny if you have to think of it this way. All the people in the Department of Defense can't see it, but the rest of the country can. I can go onto a website and see it, but they won't allow their own people. But what happens when they go home and they want to view it? So what does this really stop? Really nothing. Because people have their own phones. They can go on and go through the wireless carrier and see it. But this is the first step of censoring and trying to control what people see out there on the internet. Now, I thought this was very interesting. Senators are asking if the NSA collected gun data. Are these people stupid? Do we have like the most idiotic government you have ever seen? Have you ever watched the hearings and the questions they ask, and they never delve any further? They just stay very surface oriented, and they never ever get to the truth. It's amazing to me. But for the Senate to ask the people that have been spying on Americans, and not just Americans, people around the world, all the internet, all the phone conversations, to ask if the NSA is collecting gun data. Are you kidding me? Of course they are. They're spying on everyone and placing them into groups. Are these people so stupid that they don't realize this? Or is this just a whole play and an act for all the people that are sleeping in the United States and around the world? Because to me, if they're spying on everything. They are collecting information on everything, placing people into certain groups, just like in Nazi Germany. That's how they, during the time they were able to pick out the people so quickly. The same thing is happening here. And you have to remember, all this stuff was all conspiracy theory years ago. And here it is all coming out true, that there is a huge spy network and everyone is being spied upon. We're living in a surveillance state. And to me, that's just unbelievable. So, let's just move on to Obamacare. Obama now is recruiting moms, celebrities, the AARP to push Obamacare. Now, the question I have, and I kind of like using common sense when I look at these things, if Obamacare is so great, and it is for the people, and it is for everyone to give them a great medical plan so everyone is healthy, everyone is protected, you don't need to push it. If it is for the people, people will realize it and use it. Plus, you do not have to push and make a whole campaign so people are convinced. And if you're not convinced and you don't like what we're giving you, you're penalized. And you'll pay us money for not taking it. And if the companies don't do it, we're going to penalize them too. So how possibly can this be good for the American people? Think about it. If you have to push something on someone else, it is not good for them. It reminds me of when a political leader is running for a government office and they have to push their agenda by bashing another political person who's running against them. I mean, put it to me, the way I see it, they're both bad. But when you have to push something so hard, it's no way good for you. Especially if you don't like what we're doing, we're going to penalize you. Just think about that for a second. Okay, let's move on. Now, I thought this was very interesting, and I put this on the sidebar of the x22report.com because this just amazes me. The U.S. Park Police lost about 1,400 weapons. And this goes on to say, the U.S. Park Police has lost track of a huge supply of handguns, rifles, shotguns, according to a report released Thursday on the law enforcement agency responsible for the safeguarding the National Mall and critical American landmarks. Now, we do have a toy gun march on July 3rd. In Washington, near the American landmarks, the National Mall, around that area. July 4th, we have the gun owners marching on all state capitals with or without loaded guns. Just so happens 1,400 handguns, rifles, and shotguns can't be found. I don't know, they're gone. Wow. To me, this seems like it's a perfect setup. Get those guns that are not tracked, put people into the groups that are marching, have them fire those weapons. Bloodshed, martial law, because of this. Later, it turns out, these crazy gun owners who are marching had those weapons. They're the ones who stole them. You see how far gun owners will go? They're crazy. This is what I'm looking at, and this is what I'm seeing. I put this as a potential false flag. Again, I am listing all these things and looking at it and seeing what's going on here and making sure that we understand what is going on here. Because when something happens, now again, there could be many other false flags and drills and things that we don't even know about, but what I feel like, I like to keep track of things, because as we move forward, people start, to lose things. They can't find it anymore in the internet. It was taken down, and that's why I'm saving the documents. That's why I'm keeping the list on the site. That's why I'm trying to keep a record of what is going on. That's why I have the economic collapse timeline of certain things going on, so we understand and we can see and we can look back in time of what has gone on. Okay, let's move on. Now, I thought this was very interesting, and I put this on the x22report.com site. It's in the article section. If you look at the sidebar, go all the way to the bottom, and it's under propaganda. And 25 rules of disinformation, basically of what the government will do to spread disinformation out there to the public. And I'll just go over a couple of them, and you can read the rest. Number 1, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. Regardless of what you know, don't discuss it. 2, become incredulous and indignant. Avoid discussing key issues and instead focus on side issues which can be used to show the topic as being critical of some otherwise sacrosanct group or theme. Create rumor mongers. Avoid discussing issues by describing all charges, regardless of venue or evidence, as mere rumors and wild accusations. Use a straw man. Find or create a seeming element of your opponent's argument which you can easily knock down to make yourself look good and the opponent to look bad. Sidetrack opponents with name-calling and ridicule. I'm going to just skip down here. One of my favorite ones, which you see a lot, is basically over here, create bigger distractions. If the above does not seem to be working to distract from sensitive issues or to prevent unwanted media coverage of unstoppable events such as trials, create bigger news story to distract the other news stories. The other way is to silence critics. If the above methods do not prevail, consider removing opponents from circulation by some definitive solution so that the need to address issues is removed entirely. Or how about manufacture a new truth? Create your own experts, groups, authors, leaders, or influence existing ones willing to forge new ground via scientific, investigative, or social research or testimony which concludes favorably to what they're talking about. And I thought these were very, very interesting. And you can read them. There's all listed there, 25. They're also on this page that I put up for this broadcast. Listen, everyone, thank you for listening. Have a great weekend. Be safe, be well, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.